What's up, my brother?
What's up, hermano?
Welcome back.
Gracias. So good to be back, bro.
So, man, one thing I want to jump off and talk about is you are one of the most talented musicians that I've ever met. And I run into incredibly talented musicians. And you wonder, like, when you meet someone like yourself, like, how does the world not know about your music? And I've seen it before in multiple genres, and you're just an example of that. And I want to get into right away just the persistence it takes. Because right now, things are starting to bloom. But it's been a long path, and you've been putting out good music for a long time. Yeah. I think people so often, they'll start on a path and they'll find that immediate resistance and things won't work out, and then they'll just abandon it.
Totally.
But the success comes from just staying with it, just staying and sticking and staying. So tell us about that. I mean, right now you're starting to feel that groundswell, that energy, remixes of your songs, connections with different established artists, all of this starting to come to fruition. But it's been a long time just honing the craft.
Yeah, totally. It's been, it feels like lifetimes in a way, honestly.
Right.
Yeah, it takes immense persistence, and it's so interesting because there's this whole thing that's happened in the recording music and kind of the whole way that music is experienced by people, in this modern day now with the internet and the advent of kind of streaming music and everything. It's like now an artist can't even make a living just from recording music and selling their albums. It's now you're kind of expected to just give your music away for free, and then hopefully then people will book you to do a show and get paid there. But it's this dance, like, because everyone you can't put out like a crappy piece of music. Like, you got to be produced, and that's not free. It takes a certain level.
Right.
So it's kind of like the entry price, if you will, has been leveled, the playing field. You don't need that $100,000 studio. Like, you can still do it on your computer and stuff to a fair amount. Mm-hmm. However, there's like so much. So there's also this like kind of wave of just so much noise out there. And so part of it too is being able to cut through all the noise. And so I don't think it's gotten any easier. In some ways it has, but in other ways it's gotten more difficult. So it's in this balance. So in all of it, you're right. It's all about perseverance and resiliency, and really staying the course. And I think for myself, for me, it's such my passion, and it's just what comes through me, and it's not from me. It's like really about what comes through. And I think in that way, it's an extension of my healing work, which has really been able to kind of keep me going.
Yep.
In that way. So for me, I think in so many ways, I haven't put down the flame because it's just what I'm here to do, and I know that. And so that just helps to drive me, make me get up in the morning, even when I know, there's there's so much to be done, and I don't I'm like, I might feel like I don't have all the support I need.
Tell us about those dark times, the trying times when it's like, when it really gets tough, because that's something that we can all identify with. That's something we all feel at certain points, where it just feels like too much, or you're too little, or one or the other, maybe both. Yeah,
definitely. Gosh, been many moments like that where it's really challenging, and that feeling where, wow, am I going to be able to pay, the bills this next month? Am I going to be able to cover like kind of all these root chakra kind of things, like these needs and sustenance. And yeah, I mean, gosh, not that long ago, I've had that experience, and just really struggling with that and feeling like, wow, am I going to have to go get a gig, just like a regular gig? And, it's funny. It's like,
and what did you entertain in those moments? What was the great Poranguí gonna be doing here?
Oh man, I've had
massage envy.
Oh Lord, right? Nothing against massage envy. My youngest brother, he's working there. He's down. But no, I'm I definitely have thought about like, what do I do? And I have, without shame, I've gone and I've worked a spa gig. Tried that out. Didn't last very long. Real quickly, they're like, "You're our best, most wanted therapist. Can you come back? For $30 an hour?" And I'm like, I mean, which is good pay.
Yeah.
But for the work that I was like, I can't put that out. And yeah. But I'm down. Like, I'll do whatever. I've dug holes. I've whatever is needed. Fortunately, my dad taught me from an early age, get your hands dirty, get into the dirt, and pick up the dog shit, whatever you got to do, to make.
So that provides like a fallback, at least, right?
Always.
Like you know that no matter what, you'll figure out something to do to be able to apply yourself. And that's at least that kind of fallback position where all right, it's going to be okay, even if I have to do this shit for a little while.
Yeah.
And I think that's important to have. And I think people, they fantasize about these worst case scenarios that really aren't too bad. You know, worst case, yeah, you're outside, you're doing some manual labor, which is actually somewhat satisfying and really de-stressing. You know, like there's nothing less stressful than when you have a big pile of rocks on one side and that big pile of rocks needs to go over to this pile of rock. Like it's a very simple thing. You know, you just apply yourself to it. You don't have to think about it. You know that you're making progress. You can visibly, tangibly see the progress that you're making, which is harder when you're starting a business or something else, because sometimes it looks like you're moving straight backwards. You know, sometimes it's hard to see the visible progress. Sometimes you get worse, you know, even when you're practicing your skill. In order to get better, you break down in order to recover stronger. So, but no, having that fallback position, I think is really important.
It's huge. It's huge. And I think that's been, you know, for me in a lot of ways, body work has been that, you know, it's helped me kind of keep going. Like when there's no gigs or there's not enough gigs to kind of pay the bills, and gigs, I mean, is music gigs. But, you know, just to answer your question a little bit more too, like I've done it all, like from graphic design to website building to, I mean, I'll do anything that I can apply myself, either technical skills or going out and like, you know, helping build a house or whatever needs to like kind of happen.
But in the meantime, you've kept the flame lit and you've been playing music and you've been honing the craft. And, you know, I think that's, you know, just shows when you have a passion that's that strong, it'll be this current that rides through all of these different challenges and difficulties. You know, you'll find yourself attracted to it over and over again. And that's a real key, significant part of being successful.
Absolutely. And I think one thing that's been really core to my heart, you know, in all of it has been the desire to want to really hold space for other people's healing and going through my own healing journey, you know, and with that of my family and just carrying that with me. It's like, no matter what I'm doing, it's like, if I can be creating a positive impact, whether that's with one person on the bodywork table or if that's with a whole room of people, you know, doing a performance, like that's always been my driving force, is like, how do I help shift the energy in this space, in this moment right now, you know, for the better, para el bien de todos. And that's kind of been like my guiding light. And it's really what motivates me in those mornings where it's like, I'm like, I can't get up. I'm done.
It's another great way to take a lot of the pressure off when you know that you're a force and you're applying that force just to help be as helpful to other people as possible. It takes a lot of that ego kind of fear out of the system, right? This idea that, oh, am I successful? Am I not? Am I doing this or that? Just like, look, I'm just doing my best to help people out. And when you're in that mode, it's really easy. It feels like you're getting, you know, you're going with the wind at your back at that point. And that's also really helpful. But when you focus so much on yourself and what you're doing and what you're creating and all of the pressures of me, it gets harder. You know, like the easier way is just to give it up and say, let what comes go through me, and I'm just going to help as many people as I can. And then in doing so, you know, you end up reaping rewards personally. But by focusing on others, it's another huge way to take a lot of pressure off.
Huge. Yeah. I feel like it's a friend of mine. He's a lawyer and he went to Duke with me, and, you know, just was one of these brothers, always been like a counselor for me, you know? And he's a really successful business person, built all kinds of companies. He has like Wall Street cheat sheets, like he built it, sells it, that's his thing. And he sits with me, he's like, Poranguí, you got to really decide between three things. Do you want to be famous? Are you doing this to be famous? Are you doing this to be powerful and to have power? Or are you doing this, do you want to be free? Do you want freedom? And I said, well, I want freedom. My heart wants that. You know, my mind might think, oh, I need fame, I need money, I need all these other things, but I want freedom. And he's like, well, then you have your answer. You know, then let that be your guiding principle in everything you do. And if you do it from that place, then you create everything around that place of having freedom in everything you're doing. So like, for me, my motivation is like, it's not for making a bunch of money. It's not for being out there and being famous. Like if I show up and every time I perform, every time I pick up an instrument, every time I put my hands on somebody, it's like, if I come from this place of creating freedom for me and for the other, you know, it's like what the outcome, I'm unattached.
Well, the process is freedom because when you're playing the music, you become free of the mind. You become free of the entrapments of the self and the identity. You're in flow. You're a music being created. You're literally becoming the notes as they're being played. That's the classic, beautiful flow state, the escape of the ordinary reality. Ecstasis, as you know, they call it in the book Stealing Fire, the ancient Greek term, that place of being, which is heaven. That's freedom. You're already accessing freedom. It's not some future state that you're looking forward in the future. It's right here, right now, as soon as you're playing the instrument. And if you play it that way, you're free.
And it's beautiful.
Yeah. But if you're playing it for an outcome, there you go again.
Changes
back
everything.
to hell. And the music's not going to be as good either.
It sucks.
Yeah.
I immediately know the difference. As soon as as soon as I'm attached to something, it's like,
I've learned that just, playing the flute. It's an instrument I picked up a couple years ago, and you've helped me out a bit with that. But as soon as I start playing it for the audience and thinking about what they think, and rather than just playing the music, it's such a dramatic difference.
Totally.
When you're just expressing the music in the moment without thought, that thoughtless, empty vessel, the hollow bone that's creating sound, it's magic. And then when you're trying to craft sounds with your mind, it's bullshit. It's bullshit. It's noise.
That's such a great point. It's like, it really is. It's noise. And it can become hollow and can become like, it goes through a filter. And so my objective when I'm playing is like, how do I get out of that as much as possible and just be as empty as possible? And in those moments is really when I those moments of divinity, of like real inspiration come through. And I think you can ask any musician, and I think that's a common, and ask any human being, because we're all musicians, I believe, at our core. We're all movers, we're all sound makers. We were born with these two chords, in our throats and these bodies. That make sound. So it's like, it's a core belief for me. And so it's like, as we access that, I believe that sound and movement are the most immediate way to access that state of flow, of total presence, of present moment. And so it's like, I feel like that's where a lot of us get lost, is because we're worried. We immediately worry about, oh, do I sound good? Do they like this? Is this good? It's the moment that monkey mind gets in there, it's just like, it's ridiculous. It really erodes the magic and the power of sound.
Sure. And it erodes the magic and power of anything, of sport. You see it with MMA fighters when they start thinking about, am I winning or am I losing? Am I defending the belt? What's going to happen? They don't perform. But when they're in the moment, having fun and just living this activity that they've trained for so long, it's poetry. It's beautiful. And the performance is the peak of what it could possibly be. I experienced that today. I was out playing basketball with a bunch of people who, I wanted to go out there and perform well. Whenever you're like somebody who's playing with a well-defined group, like, you want to show that you can play so that you get their respect. And then, it's just kind of the thing. And I haven't played in a long time. So I get out there and I start thinking about that, and I just can't play. Where normally it's just fluid. Me hooping is just like, I don't think about anything. I'm just fluid. I'm laughing. I'm cracking jokes. But just for that little while where I was thinking about, all right, I gotta show that I'm, worthy of getting the next pass. All of a sudden the game goes to shit. The music, the game, the whatever, relationships. Even when you're with somebody and you start wondering, oh, does she like me? Does she not like me? What is she gonna do? Or does he like me? Does he not like me? Well, I wonder what she's thinking. You're out of it.
Right.
You're out of it. Sex, the same thing. It all, like, knowing this way broadly of just getting yourself out of the way, just being a vehicle, being in the present, smelling, feeling, tasting, being the observer, being the witness, and allowing everything to just move through you without getting stuck in the mind, which tries to grasp and hold on to everything. And that's how magic happens in absolutely everything in life.
Yeah. And I would add to that vulnerability. That authentic vulnerability. It's like when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, to take that risk where we're on that edge and we could fall at any moment. There's something so powerful about being in that place of letting everything go, like you said, in intimacy, with our partner, to being in a fight, in a match, or to being in that moment with the song. Really being able to be really vulnerable, and because the people, others who are the witness, right? And the witness is just creator, right? The witness is always here. And so it's like, when you allow that witness to just witness that authentic vulnerability, they feel it right away. It's visceral.
Yeah.
The great example is like, I think of, when I perform with my one-man kind of orchestra, when I'm looping, it's such a trip because, I'm recording everything in the moment. I don't know what's going to happen next. I just know, okay, this instrument plays pretty good with that instrument, and then I just throw them together and see what happens. And there's something about, I know for people when they're watching that, to know that nothing's pre-recorded. Nothing else is like, I could mess up in any moment. There's something about that edge, right? The fighter could totally go down in any second, right? Or in the sport, you could trip and fall and like ruin the whole game, drop the ball. And so it's like that edge is what keeps us on the edge of our seat. And it's like for me, there's something intangible and magical and potent in that too, right? That's like, that makes the stakes really high. That also adds to the aesthetic, like the depth almost. It's like how high we can go, and that's how far we can fall. And so there's some relationship there, just
Sure. Yeah, it's a classic indicator of how to get into the deepest flow states is when the stakes are high, when the stakes matter. When like the more people are watching. That's why these championship matches, I'll watch the championship event in any sport, even if I can't stand, the actual activity, whatever it is, dart throwing, pretty boring to watch. But if it's the final championship of championships, just that pressure and that state,
right.
The Olympics, that's why we love the Olympics, is there's something that can come from the stakes being raised, and then knowing that some people are going to rise to that and some people aren't quite going to be ready. The mind is going to jump in there. And then occasionally you get these beautiful moments where both competitors are fully there, fully present. And then that turns into this incredible, that was the most amazing thing I'd ever seen,
right.
Where it was just both people bringing absolutely 100% of their potential and then watching what happens. But in music, it's really easy to feel that, you see that. And I think you see that with so many of the great musicians. They get out there and they start performing, and they're a special force to be reckoned with. And I think you're absolutely in that category. You get in that mode, and you're not Poranguí, the guy who we hang out with and drink a margarita, jalapeno margarita, and we hang out and do our stuff. And then there's this other version, that's more selfless, that lacks a certain identity, but is in the same body and is just the vessel for this great thing that you're bringing through.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I just kind of empty myself out.
Yeah.
There's something I think that's really interesting, that with the advent of recording, in like recording audio, recording video, which is only 100 years old, give or take, it's a very recent phenomenon. And we have this history of our ancestry, right? These thousands, millennia of music and dance, movement and sound were never recorded. It was always this magical thing that would happen in the present moment, and the moment it passed is gone forever. And all you had was just the fleeting kind of impression, if you will, in your body, that visceral feeling that it left you with. And there's something I think we've taken for granted in a way with recorded music, now being able to just pop this little, earbuds in and walk wherever and like listen to anything, on demand, this whole thing of streaming. And it's really interesting. I feel like it's almost taken away a little bit of that sense of how magic and powerful movement and sound are, to the human experience.
I think that's why some of the reality shows involving music, have been so successful, because you actually find those moments. You find these moments where people are rising above what they've ever been capable of before, and it just gives you chill bumps. It can be, the dance show, So You Think You Could Dance, or it can be,
right.
Any one of the music shows that are really popular, and you see that, and you're like, damn, that was fucking incredible. And you actually see it in some of the award shows too, and where you get multiple people. Like I remember, Pink laid down a performance a couple years ago that just had everybody like, what the fuck was that? She was drawing something deep out of the ether and out of herself to get there. So there'll always be that special place, but you're right. Now that we get to piece everything together, it's just like acting for a movie versus acting on stage.
Right.
You get that same thing where you'll get a character drop in on stage and it'll be like, holy shit, that was incredible. But you get multiple tries, in front of the screen, right. In multiple takes. So it allows a lot more, freedom and flexibility. It doesn't require that same thing, but ultimately the best still bring it that way.
Yeah, I think you don't need it. Well, I don't want to say you don't need mastery, but there's a level of, you have this padding when you have the filter of a studio or the filter of an editor, or there's something about that live, the energy that happens in the live moment, right? And that real spontaneity. And we see it everywhere now, right? Live on live streaming, right? Not on Facebook, or like everything is moving to this, like it has to happen in the moment right then. And there's something about that risk again. I think it brings us to, right? That's something that feels more authentic, feels like this isn't through any filters. This is like the raw experience. And then when you see it and you feel that magic come through, it's like, it just hits you in this deeper way. And it like fills our soul, resonates our soul, you know? And so I feel that that's a big piece. And that's part of why, like with the album, what I've been working on is like, I was kind of sitting in the studio this winter thinking, okay, I'm going to take all these recordings from last year's shows and I'm just going to use those as guide tracks. And, you know, now I'm going to record them in the studio and like polish, better microphone, better environment, not all the noise and bleed and all these problems. And as I got there, I'm like, I'm going to try to recreate the energy that was in these performances, like, you know, with no audience, with nobody here, just me and all by myself. And I was like, that's crazy. It's like I'm doing a disservice to what that experience is. And if my goal is for people to have a way to have a sampling of what that experience is like, I want to take them there. So I changed my whole approach. And now it's like, let me identify some of the best snippets from these various live shows and edit those into a piece. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like been...
Makes sense. Well, it's like a comedian, right? A comedian can't just sit in the studio and record jokes. You know, they got to record it in front of an audience.
And add an audience sound. And
There's always like, I slayed with that one for sure. Cue that one up a few more notches. You know, you can't do that. You know, it's truly a performance art.
Yeah. And that's where the magic is. So yeah.
And I think, you know, a lot of people who aren't musicians and aren't performing, I think there's all kinds of ways to get there. I mean, shit, go sing karaoke. Like, I guarantee you're going to be nervous before you go sing karaoke, right? It's like, but then you get up there and you just give it hell and like authentically express and it'll feel good. Or be the first one to start the dance party. Yeah. You know, like find that and just go out there and just let it rip. Like, we have all of these opportunities. It's not about what the scale is. It's what the scale is for you. Yeah. You know, like your karaoke bar is the same as the rock stars filled out stadium. Like it's the same. Your friends and family, it's going to carry a similar weight to that. And similar magic can come out in any of these different venues. And I think that's the important thing to learn. This isn't just for an elite select few. It's just about having the courage to be vulnerable, to know that you may fuck up and you're going to still love yourself and still be good with everything, even if you do. And that'll give you the freedom to just get out there and let it rip and whatever the hell it is.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like it's almost like a muscle, you know, like you're in the gym, you go and you train that muscle, you train yourself to be stronger at it. It's like life is all about uncertainty. The only certainty we have in life is uncertainty. And so it's like training our ability to dance on the edge with uncertainty, to smile in the face of uncertainty, to be able to, you know, do a cartwheel out of that fall where you almost face plant. Like that is like the art form for all humans. Yeah, you don't have to be, that is the mastery. I think we're all invited and we came into these bodies, you know, to have that experience. Like, how do we hone ourselves and whatever it is we do, you know, whether we're a painter, you know, we paint a house every day, like how do I do that even more gracefully, even more fulfillingly, you know, and with joy, dancing as I like rock my brush, you know, or as a fighter or as a musician, you know, I feel that's what we're called in. And the way we do that is we take risks. And we take that risk of being vulnerable. And the more we do that, the better we get at it. Because it's not if we're going to fall on our face. It's just when. And it's how gracefully do we get up and keep our dignity.
Yeah.
You know,
and you do that with a smile.
Totally.
You know, like, because that's really like everybody falls and everybody fails. You know, like we think that we need to be hard on ourselves and show, oh man, I put this whole act together, you know, but really, just come back with a smile like, hey, yeah, all right, I fell on my face. It's all good. I got my ass kicked. I fell on my face. I fucked up. So what?
Yeah.
So what? It's all good. And by admitting your vulnerability, admitting that you're fallible, then that makes you less vulnerable and less fallible. You know, ultimately, like surrendering to your vulnerability is the only invulnerability, you know, because then it's not an issue anymore. It's not anything that's actually making you vulnerable. It's just part of life. It's just the stumbling that occurs with walking, you know, so it's really not touching you, you know, and so you become invincible by being vulnerable. And that's the thing that people don't realize. Like they try to defend themselves, but in the defense, that's what's really making them the most vulnerable. I always use the analogy of someone who's, you know, the toughest person doesn't go through into battle with the most armor. You know, like the scariest person that would be the one that walked in there naked. like
Totally.
I am invincible. Like go for it.
Bearing their heart on their chest.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And obviously that's not a practical means for battle. I'm using it as an analogy.
Sure.
But like the more armor we put on ourselves, the more insecure we are about our vulnerability.
Yeah.
Like the more we're trying to protect.
Right.
Whereas if you go in naked and go in without all the psychological mechanisms and the defense mechanisms and the ways that you subvert blame and all that, you go in without all that, that's when you're really strong, because then you know that no matter what happens, you're going to be all right.
Yeah. The perfect imperfection.
Yeah.
And just accepting that about ourselves. I think another great analogy is, you brought up relationship, and I find that, in my partnership, with Ashley, it's like, I'm constantly being tested. She's such the ultimate mirror, right? Because you spend so much time with your partner and your beloved, and they kind of show you where all your edges are, in your armor, and where your weaknesses are in your armor, like literally. And they invite you to drop all your armor. And the more I can just do that and kind of get real with what is and what is mine, it's like how much deeper the love can go, and it applies to everything in life. And I feel like what you're saying, it's in going back to this idea of this muscle. The more we can be vulnerable, the more we can work on our vulnerability and just be in it, fully own it, and then when we fall on our face, which we will, when we get pissed, when we lose our shit, excuse my language, but when those moments happen, it's like we're able to catch ourselves that much faster. Yeah. That much faster. I can be like, oh, I know this program. I learned that from my dad. I learned that from my mom leaving me. I know exactly what this is. And those moments, I come right back to my heart and I'm like, please forgive what I just said. That was total idiot.
Right.
That was my monkey self, acting a fool. And I love you. Yeah. And it's like going to that place. And I guess to tie it back into the music, it's the same. It's like inevitably a pedal fails, an instrument, I hit a wrong note. And I love, I think it was Miles Davis who said, you can never play a wrong note. It depends on what the next note is. Mm-hmm. It's such a perfect analogy for everything in life, right? It's like, what's the next note? How do you turn that wrong note into a beautiful song, into a whole new passage that never would have happened had you not made the mistake?
It's, I think I've been listening a lot to this Buddhist. His name's Mooji, Mooji, and he has a lot of pearls of wisdom that he drops. But he talks about how we always look with hindsight as everything is beneficial. And he talks about if we were the cook of our lives, and we were cooking everything in advance, we'd make everything chocolate flavored. Like everything would be delicious, like perfect and delicious. But that would be super boring, right? What we end up saying that we're the most grateful for is some of the hardships, some of the stuff, the difficult dishes that we had to swallow. And then we look back and like, man, that really helped me out a lot. That made me who I was. These challenging things. And we look back with hindsight, but when we look with foresight, it's like, oh my God, I can't believe I got to deal with it. And the message is, look with hindsight now. Look with hindsight at what this is going to bring to you, how you're going to recover, how you're going to get better. Like bring hindsight into foresight. And then you're on your path to mastery. Because at that point, no matter what happens, you're immediately learning from it and immediately finding gratitude. And then so at that point that you're grateful for everything that's happening, you're in bliss.
Yeah.
Here you are. Welcome to heaven. Welcome out of hell. Welcome back to heaven.
Right.
Because you're grateful for whatever the fuck is happening right now. Not with hindsight, but with foresight.
Right.
And that's powerful.
Super powerful. And that's tying it back to your first question to me, in those darkest moments for me, like how have I been able to get up in the morning? It's been that. It's been like those moments when I see the future and I'm like, oh God, we're not going to make it, all that. It's like, that'll destroy us, right? That would make, I can't get up today. It's just failure. It's just like, oh, that's all I see. But the moment I look back, I'm like, wow, look at the shoulders I'm standing on. Look at everything that I've already accomplished. And it's like, it doesn't matter. Tomorrow doesn't exist. All that exists is right now, this breath. And in that next breath, I can choose. And it's like, that's true liberation.
It is. And the other trick that he talks about is, understanding that we are the force of consciousness, and that there's a lot of fires that the self and the ego are going to start. And he talks about how these fires feed off, not off wood, but they feed off our attention. And there's no way to go as the ego and try and put out a fire started by the ego. It's like what Einstein said, you can't solve a problem on the same level that it was created. You can't solve these ego fires with more ego. You feel jealous, you feel threatened, your ego wants to puff itself up and become greater and stronger and overcome it. it's just a cyclical hell. You know, like you can't put out that fire with that. You have to take a step, elevate yourself above and be the observer and say, oh, look, I see how the ego is rustled in this situation, but I'm not that. I'm consciousness. I'm this force that's animating this body in this life. And then that allows those fires to just go out on their own. You know, it's like when you go looking for bliss, chasing it, you'll chase it like a greyhound chasing a rabbit. But as soon as you stop and realize that it's already here, bliss will kiss you on the forehead. You know?
Totally.
And it's been really cool. Like all of these, you know, finding these different truths in so many different paths. And I definitely recommend people, if you can, check out the work of Muji, because he's killing it for me right now.
Yeah. One thing that comes to mind as you say that is like, you know, what are the things that we can do that help us take that perspective, to step back, you know, from our ego, from those fires? It's like, what are practices that we can do, you know, in our day to day, you know, that enable us to do that, whether that be meditation or maybe it's playing music, maybe some creative expression. I mean, that's what it is for me. But yeah. What have you found? I mean, the gym, I don't know. Like,
it's any time that you can enter that kind of flow state, state of ecstasis, that state where your mind is no longer the dominant force, that you're an embodiment of the force itself, you know? So it can be the quieter things like meditation, it can be different louder forms of meditation like the ecstatic dance that we're both a huge fan of. And it can be the float tank, it can be yoga, it can be doing the Wim Hof techniques, you know, where you're breathing heavily and then going into the cold.
Dude, I saw that in your, in your pool.
It's amazing. It's amazing. You know, or it can be playing music, or it can be playing sports. It's whatever is going to get you out of there is going to have a dramatic impact. And there's clinical research showing all kinds of things with flow state, healing all kinds of different conditions, because these conditions are created by the mind. And when you get the mind diminished and the consciousness elevated, then that's where you're going to go. And really, I think the thing to focus on is not diminishing the mind, because again, that's trying to put out the fire of the mind with the mind. Mind, I got to diminish you, says the mind. The mind's like, fuck that. I'm not going to diminish myself. You know, like I'm trying to exist. I'm trying to be real, says the mind. So you have to just elevate the other part, you know, your consciousness part.
Yeah.
And any of the practices that you have will help that.
I find distracting, and not just distracting as in like, you know, entertainment, like just consume things, which is kind of the default distraction that we have in society. Is like, don't look at your problems, just, you know, bypass and ignore it, stuff it down, take a pill, and then hope it goes away, and then it just turns into cancer, right? It's kind of the de facto of what's happening. Like I find that the kind of grabbing the mind and confusing it, and like I think of art forms like capoeira is a great example, you know, martial art, a dance, and music all at the same time. And that's kind of like, that's where I, you know, when we've done the dancing play, when I teach those workshops, you know, it's like, I found that without a doubt, what a powerful way to get into it is accessing, literally being able to do something with it's like rubbing your belly, you know, patting your head and chewing the gum at the same time, you know, and being able to do these multiple things at the same time. It's like really forcing our mind to almost be overloaded. So it can't possibly track. The bandwidth is maxed out. And in those moments, it kind of has that brain fart and it's just like, and in that moment, it's like, it suddenly like cracks us.
Yeah.
You know, and it takes us into that space. And there's a saying, right? In Japanese masters would have like those, what is the Zen sayings that make you just kind of like.
Oh, the Zen koans.
The koans.
Yeah. These puzzles that your mind can't solve. It's like overwhelming the bit rate of the brain. So
exactly.
So it creates the rainbow pinwheel. And all of a sudden,
the rainbow
pinwheel of death. And then your consciousness
or life
has an opportunity to elevate. Yeah, that's certainly one effective strategy. There's a lot, but finding those ways to you know, escape from the tyranny of our mind. I mean, our mind is there to constantly look for problems. Like that's its purpose. We got to understand what its biological function is. Where's the problem? Where's the problem? Where's the problem? What's going to prevent me from having wealth? What's going to prevent me from eating? What's going to prevent me from having sex? Blah, blah, blah. Looking. And that's good. We need that. You know, I'm glad it's there. It's helpful, you know, but at the same time, it needs to chill because there's not always a problem on the horizon. It doesn't always need to be active. And if that's its purpose, it's like, if you have a hammer, everything for the hammer is going to be a nail. The way that our mind works, if the mind's, main prerogative is to find problems, everything is going to be a problem. It's like we have to understand that our mind is a tool designed to find and identify and solve problems. So we have to, we have to get out of that framework, or it's literally going to make everything a problem.
Yeah.
And that's not the place you want to be in.
Right. Yeah, because you've already lost.
You've already lost.
Already lost.
Because it'll make every damn little thing a problem.
Yeah.
It'll make a minor annoying health condition the sign that you're going to die. It'll make some small incident in a relationship a dramatic, huge event, because the mind will manifest and latch on to these different problems when you don't give them any attention. Again, you don't feed that fire with your attention, the fire will go out, more times than not. And if you have to solve it, fine. When the problem is actually there, we're actually really adept at figuring it out. It's almost relaxing. Like at the point, like the worst part of getting sick is not being sick. It's the lead up to it when you think you have options, like you think you can fight it and you don't know if this is that, and the mind's struggling back and forth. When it's already there, when you already break your leg, it's like, well, fucking broke my leg, all right, so we'll get to healing it. It's the suffering comes in the anticipation and the wiggling and the wrangling and
it's the mind's attachment, right?
Yeah, exactly.
and or aversion. It's like our craving or aversion, we're constantly in the suffering. And so it's when we can be that equanimity, right? That equanimity is kind of like, okay, I just am. And I think one of the seeds that needs to blossom in those moments is love and coming back to that heart, right? Because it's like the mind, it's just churning. It's just constantly looking for patterns, looking for all these problems and solutions to the problems. But then it's like when we are able to drop into that flow state, I feel like that's where we access the channel straight to the heart, straight to spirit. It's like that's when we tap into love.
Well, that's what feels like is the home of consciousness. Whenever I do a guided meditation, that's where I anchor consciousness. It's not anchored in the brain.
Right.
It's anchored there in the heart. And interesting enough, the heart has quite a few neurons in it as well.
Amazing.
So
it even has nerves that go to the vocal cords and return back to the heart.
Yeah. So focusing your energy on the heart rather than the head is a very beneficial practice. And again, this idea of kind of choking off the energy of the mind, that's exactly what psilocybin's doing. Psilocybin is literally the mechanism of action is restricting blood flow to parts of the brain called the default mode network, which is part of that, reptilian side that's constantly looking for trouble. And it allows the other more elevated parts of both your heart and the other parts of your brain to take that step forward, because the other part is just kind of on low power mode.
Exactly.
And the more you take, the less power that thing gets. And that's how it really works. And I think that's how a lot of the psychedelics work. It's not so much that it's adding, and this was a great theory by Aldous Huxley, is it's not that it's adding more to your brain. It's actually, taking away some of the filter, that constant watchdog. It's just like letting that thing go to sleep so that the brain can actually take in all the other information. The consciousness can take in the information.
Totally. And what medicine is obviously an amazing way to do that. I think that's music, I think, and dance are like direct. It's like accessible by anyone at any time when we get into that place of making sound, even if we're just toning by ourselves or, humming a song, right? In the shower, driving the car, whenever those moments are, it's like it immediately starts to get our mind out of this place and we find ourselves doing this thing. And as we do it, it generates this joy, this deep joy, this like heart opening, and even whatever the song may be, and it may be just this catchy like hook from some really terrible pop song you can't get out of your head. Then it starts to turn into hell, maybe a little bit. But in that way, it can really, it opens. And one thing I was going to make a distinction, I was thinking about it, between like fighting. We were giving like the examples of different things that go into flow states. It's like with fighting, there's still this kind of destructive outcome, that can happen out of it, right? And it's because this conflict and you have someone, there's injury, there's pain, there's suffering kind of being generated by that. I would almost say what's really unique about music and dance is that there's no outcome of anything trying to be attained other than the form itself. It's one of the few art forms where there's no like tangible thing. Like it's not for survival. It's not for, maybe you could say maybe like I'm doing a mating dance or something like that, historically. But it's like it exists for its own sake. And that's really unique thing, I think, about human beings. It's one of our most redeeming qualities as these nuclear apes, on planet Earth, right? And doing all of our havoc. It's like when we're able to create music out of that place of selflessness, just out of joy, just that expression, like the way a bird just sings a song in the morning. And it's just like you hear that and it just like lifts your heart up and you're like, a new day.
Isn't that what Bob Marley says? One good thing about music, when it hits, you feel no pain.
Absolutely.
That's absolutely right. It's
Absolutely.
it's the same with, other forms of art too, painting and poetry and these other expressions that are really designed purely to, uplift or guide you to providence, places that are going to either bring out more. But, in the same way, though, some music can drive you deep into really challenging territory. Some ceremony music, that's the purpose, like going into the darkness. And I think in some ways, fighting can be that as well. It's this challenging force, two people agreeing to bring each other into the darkness to see what they can find, see what gems can emerge when all of the pressure of the world comes crashing down. Your safety, your health, your virility, your performance, your money, everything on the line. The gems of the soul can be created by the pressure that's created, and in that way, it's beautiful. But as you say, there is damage. There is
collateral damage,
significant damage in order to get that done. And so, is it the most effective way to get in there and get those gems? Who knows? Maybe for some, maybe for some, that's the music that they're here to play, and that goes to the kind of the archetypal differences between different people.
Right. No, absolutely. And so it's not, I don't think it's a right or wrong kind of thing. I think there's different approaches. And I feel the invitation, I guess, to everyone out there, right, is how can you bring more music, more sound, more movement, intentional sound into your daily practice, and whatever that looks like. And in that way, be able to bring a little bit more joy and connection to the heart. I just feel like that's, because right now we need that more than ever, right? With what's happening in our country and our world right now, it's like we are being called in. Last night we did the sound healing over at Black Swan Yoga, and I pulled a card for the group, and we work with this animal deck, and the card was the elk, and the elk symbolizes stamina. And it was like, the group dynamic, the energy tonight, stamina. And it really hit home for me, because I realized we're in this point right now as a community, as a culture, as a people, as humanity, where we need stamina right now. It's like, it feels exhausting, like looking at, if we go down that rabbit hole, like looking where our mind sees these problems, right? And what we're facing right now between, Mr. T and the rest of the gang, right? That's like, that we're dealing with. And I'm just like, and all the way down to ourselves, right? In our own battles. And it feels like there's so much up in the field, more than ever right now. And so it's like, we got to have that stamina to be able to stay in our hearts, to be able to come back to that. And if that requires us to hum that song, whatever that is, allow that lullaby, to bring us back into our hearts, so that when we show up to fight that battle, we can do that as warriors of peace.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a certain grit in the face of resistance, and it's also looking at this, not as looking at it with hindsight now, and saying, wow, what will this force of resistance that we're feeling collectively and individually, what will that bring out of this? What will that bring out of the country? Not what, oh man, look what we have to deal with, but all right, well, what's going to happen now? What's our response? What is this pressure going to create within us and collectively? What bonds are going to be formed? What urgency, is going to cause different people to come across and say, all right, now's time. Now it's time for the fellowship. Let's call the hobbits, call the dwarves, call the elves. Like, we got some shit to do.
We got a lot to do.
And so that's looking with that potential hindsight, you can really start to get excited. Like, all right, beautiful, bring it.
Totally.
Here we go, world. Do your worst. We're ready. We're gonna find that resiliency, find that grit. Whatever compression we feel will create more energy on the bounce back. We are that bouncy ball getting dropped from the cosmos, and at the moment we hit the pavement, everything compresses and we become flat. Like, oh, this is the worst. But all of that energy can be used, shoot us right back up.
That's it. Yeah. So kind of for me, being in the studio this winter, I was feeling that so deeply, like just going through it. Like, okay, what can I contribute to this experience right now? What can I add? Like, I'm not interested in just making music to entertain. It's like, what can I possibly bring through that's going to help people basically be the anthem for that, boom, that expansion. Because that's what we need right now, right? Just like when you go to the gym or you're going to go into, when you have that music that's just pushes you and it makes you just get through that last rep or whatever it is, right? When it makes you climb that mountain to that last peak and take those last steps and be able to push through your total fear, you feel like your body is done. It's like, what is that song? And so that's really my inspiration right now. It's like, okay, the people need this music. The earth needs this music, you know?
Yep. Agreed.
As earth keepers.
I want to play that. I want to play that track here coming up, but it reminds me too, somebody told me something, about the Navy SEALs have a rule when they say when you're completely done and you have nothing more to give, you really only gone 40% and you got 60% more to give. So it's like the 40% rule. And I've thought about that, you know, because and for them, you know, that's what they've kind of figured out because they put themselves in these situations where they literally have nothing and then realize, oh, actually, I got 60% more that I can do. Like, we're so much stronger than we give ourselves credit. As soon as we get our mind out of the way and realize, like, yeah, all right, I'm going to keep going one step at a time, one foot in front of the other. Here we go.
One breath
Heart
at a
forward,
time.
head up, one breath at a time. I got 60% more, even when I think I'm very much at my very end. You know, I got more. And then when you get to that end of that 60% more, maybe there's even a little bit more you can squeeze out.
A little reserve in there.
Like human beings are just fucking powerful, resilient forces.
Totally. And you see that so many examples, right? Everywhere of like when we're pushed to the absolute limit, when we have nothing is when the most beautiful things happen. And that's that same idea. When we're empty, when we're hollow ourselves out, that's when real spirit comes through.
Hell yeah. Let's play the track.
Yeah.
Tell us about this track that we're going to play now.
Okay, so since we did the Aya album, right, for Ayahuasca documentary film, I've been hard at work. I've partnered up with a couple amazing producer friends who I've connected with. Sauna Love, who is also known as Shaman's Dream, amazing producer, and he's been helping me kind of coordinate this, as well as Amani friend from Desert Dwellers in Liquid Bloom. And so these beautiful brothers are they're going to put out the Aya remixes. And we're putting it out on Desert Tracks record label, which is Desert Dwellers record label. And if you haven't heard their music, you got to check their music out. It's really beautiful, kind of cross between like dubstep, big bass, beautiful music meets conscious, like medicine, world sounds, medicine music. It's pretty epic. So they had an amazing list, and I've been listening to different producers, and we're like, let's send out an invite to the most incredible DJs and remixers out there, and let's see, with this intention, how do we take now the vibration of this music, of the film, the intention of Madre Ayahuasca, and bring that to the dance floor?
Yep.
And so that's kind of what has given rise to this. And I've just been blown away by the response from everybody. And so we have a few, they're trickling in. We're planning on the release coming out at the end of summer of the whole thing. But we have a couple previews right now that we're going to be sharing with people. And this first one is a remix of Arcoiris, which is our theme song of the film. And this is by a brother by the name of Momentology. And yeah, beautiful. I just got this remix last night and I heard it and I was like, oh, we got to play this on the podcast.
Worldwide debut.
Worldwide debut, a little sample here. Here we go.
Yeah. What's wild is it elicits some of the same things from the film.
Totally.
But it has this whole different flavor. It has this like get up and move kind of flavor to it.
Yeah. Like, okay. Yeah, it lifts it up. Still has the heart lifting, right? The energy, the zampoña. I can just see the film too. We're flying over with the drone footage, like over the jungle, right? Just like landing in the jungle. We're flying like a condor. my favorite. Yeah.
That's awesome. You know, it's crazy how different music will drive you to different things, you know, and it just makes you want to get up and do amazing things for the world. Like that's like it's weird. Like I have my different tracks that'll make me want to go harder in the gym, or different tracks that'll make me want to go through challenging emotional times. This one just makes me want to create fucking awesome, beautiful things. You know, it's really cool.
Yeah,
that's dope.
That's the intention. Totally.
Did you get that Burning Man invite yet? Are you gonna be dropping some of these tracks out there?
I haven't yet. We're waiting for it. I trust that when the time's right, we'll be asked to come out there and share.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. I've been preparing though. I've been thinking about, okay, how do I get my gear out there without it getting totally trashed by the playa?
Well, lots of people have had that problem to solve. Like, you know, you're not
hermetically sealed. Like,
yeah. Yeah, that's true. You'll be pulling sand out of your guitars
forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, no, we're totally down to take it to the pipe. We are going to be though at Beloved Festival this summer. And this amazing festival, Symbiosis, is doing, it's called Oregon Eclipse this year. And they're doing it up. And I guess it's like multiple festival curators from various festivals are all taking on different stages of this festival. So Liquid Bloom, we're going to be doing a set there. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to be doing a solo set. And Shaman's Dream too. So we're going to be playing some of these tracks out there for sure. So yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Really juicy.
That'll be dope.
Yeah.
Do you want to listen to that second track that we have queued up here?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
So this one is Sueños de la Selva, which is, you know, one of the other really beautiful tracks that I had done the original like kind of beat programming on it. It was the only one that kind of had more program beats. Everything else was purely organic with Imbira, Kalimba. And this one actually is by a brother named Ataya, and really amazing brother, incredible producer, young brother who's just up and coming, really incredible production. His style is known as drip hop. And so kind of this like real deep bass lines. And yeah, I just did a remix for him as a thank you of this one. So really stoked to kind of have him on this album. And yeah, there's going to be a lot more goodness coming from this.
Hell yeah.
Check it out.
I could just imagine the boat ride to this song too. You know,
totally.
Just like on Wachuma. Just
wow. The water rippling, fractals.
Yeah. Perfect Wachuma boat ride music. Anybody going to Don Howard's Spear Quest, get this track for the boat ride. Trust me.
This has to be in your playlist.
Oh, yeah. You're going to like this one. That's badass. It's a beautiful song for like acceptance. It really reminds me of just making peace with what is, you know, which is again one of the beautiful parts of Wachuma is just that accepting yourself and your life and your tribe and for who they are and what really is, and being okay, that ultimate form of forgiveness, you know?
Yeah.
And it's beautiful to see these medicine songs translated into something that, you know, just enhances and heightens and steers it in slightly a different direction. So awesome to see that this album is still
fractaling out.
Yeah. You know, you create something and the ripples continue to go on.
Yeah. Yeah. And to that, I'd love to just share this. You know, I've been getting so much beautiful feedback, like when people go onto the Bandcamp, and I know you've gotten it too through your social media and stuff. It's just, it's so beautiful to see how many people are like really finding deep healing with this music.
Yep.
And how it's fine. I mean, all over the world, you know, getting messages from Australia, from like, you know, New Zealand, from, you know, Asia. I'm just like, wow, like people all over the world just being able to sit with it. And it's like, they're like, nothing else takes me back to ceremony like this. Like, thank you for this. Like, thanks for creating this. And I'm just like, I feel so grateful, you know, that it all just started from a simple conversation and you being like, hey, you want to do the music for this thing? So thank you, brother.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And yeah, for those of you who are interested, AubreyMarcus.com has both the documentary at drinkthejungle.com, where you can navigate through the site, and then the album for sale, digital download, or actually the tangible CD too. We're still selling as well for anybody who actually has a slot that motherfucker will fit in.
The best fidelity though. Gotta say, the best quality we want for the jungle sounds.
Yeah, and we're running out of slots these days. I was just trying to plug my headphones into my iPhone earlier, and I was like,
thwarts us again.
no dongle there. Got to queue up the old Bluetooth.
You got to radiate your head a little bit if you want to listen.
Yeah. Do you think music will change at all with all of the technological advancements? I mean, is this VR or anything going to change how we consume music? Maybe consume live events through kind of virtual reality experience? Or
yes, I think it is happening. And I feel that at the same time that there's this technological, like, you know, speed up that we're watching happen as we accelerate to the singularity, you know, as Kurzweil says, I feel that at the same time, I feel like there's this core kind of experience that people are getting present with. Same to what we were talking about with like the live experience, like experiencing it, being there at the show. You know, it's something about, I think while the VR stuff is going to continue to grow and people are going to create these more immersive experiences, and some people may just get lost in those worlds, but I feel like at the same time, human beings, we hunger for the real thing. We know the difference, and there's something that can never replace the real thing. And I feel like ultimately people will, just like now, you see more people wanting vinyl records now. Yeah. People are getting turntables again. Like there'll
be a counter reaction.
There'll be a counter reaction, you know. And I feel like
maybe that's ultimately what we need. Maybe these mediocre things are just, you know, they're actually the hardest to transcend. You know, because maybe when you actually take it to the ultimate, then you'll start craving back the original basics. You know, maybe that's where the balance will be.
Yeah,
you know, is when you have everything available technologically. Right. Maybe that's when we'll start appreciating, you know, the actual tangible and the visceral communication that we can have.
Yeah, I really believe that, because there's just nothing like that human touch, that human voice, and hearing it with your own eardrums. You know, totally analog on the way out and on the way in.
Yeah.
And, you know, the digital intermediate, it's beautiful and it's getting better and more high def and more pixels and more, you know, but ultimately it'll never replace, I think, the real thing. And I pray for that, because I feel like if it does, I don't know what's going to happen to humanity. We may just turn into ones and zeros.
Well, we become a different type of technology.
Right.
But I don't think that's the case. And if it is, I'm damn glad we're alive now, because then this is the golden age, because we have all of the benefits of technology, but still have access to all of each other. And this time, I really think this is the best time that there's ever been to be alive.
Totally. Yeah. Right now.
Yeah.
And with that, I'd like to just invite, you know, everybody come out and have a one-on-one experience with us. The retreats that we're doing and all the different offerings, like that's really the ultimate. It's like, you have these like as you're on the go, but then it's like when you want to go deep and come and get it firsthand.
Nothing like it. I was just on the table yesterday. I can assure everybody that is a uniquely incredible experience. I mean, the trance state that creates, the combination of the music and the massage and all of the healing modalities that you apply at once, it's really, really incredible. It's something that's indescribable, you know, and it's really cool to see the blending, the synesthesia of all of these different things that you've created. And it's beautiful, and not many people in the world are going to get to experience that. But it's now, get in while you fucking can. That's all I'm saying. Like, you get an opportunity to see this man, see him live, do it now, because there's never going to be a better time than now. So get up and make it happen. Manifest that shit.
Yeah, it's true, man. We're on the road more and more. It's like, okay, it's like never home.
Exactly. Where should people look for you? Where should people find you and stuff?
Yeah, we have our website, just poranguí.com, porangui.com, and that's the best place where I try to keep that event calendar up to date, kind of with our latest shows, as well as a way to reach us for body work, and it tells you about our retreats. So that's the best portal, and then otherwise, Instagram, Facebook, and those places as well. Just kind of like us up and connect with us there. And yeah, lots of good things coming up though. We got amazing retreats right now in May and April. Mm-hmm. And we have stuff on the horizon with on it. So just so much.
Yeah. I mean, we're flirting with, opening up potentially some of the retreats that are happening at my own ranch as well, which is
epic.
Epic. Yeah. So if any of you guys see that, again, I'd recommend jumping on it because it's been a massive, massive part of my life. And I have the utmost confidence for everybody who goes through that program.
And Eden Hot Springs.
Eden Hot Springs.
Which
is don't get fooled. It's cold as fuck.
Well, this time of year, at nighttime.
The hot springs are warm. But bring some extra sleeping bag.
You got in a pool with a bunch of ice, man. And you're going to say that's cold as fuck?
Yeah, well, that's 3 minutes at a time, all right? I'm happy for really cold in short distances. It's like when I'm running. Like I'm a good sprinter. You ain't going to see me on an Ironman trip, I'm not going to be running the Boston Marathon.
Check. What was it? You texted me, hashtag not tough. When you left.
No, for sure. It was too fucking cold. And everybody's like, just go in the fucking pool. Like, it's 4 a.m. I'm going to be even colder when I get out. What are you talking about?
Got your robe. You got to, I know you guys didn't come fully prepared. You got to come prepared.
Yeah, we'll come prepared to eat. Definitely a really pretty spot in Arizona.
Oh, man.
Well, the sands of time have run out, but let's fucking close this thing with some music.
Some music? Let's do it.
Let me have that flute there. I'll see if I can add a few notes in there.
Yeah. Tell them about this. So this is from our brother Guillermo. Actually, that's one of his amazing flutes.
And I just got a flute for my birthday from Whitney with Quetzalcoatl on it. It's a badass flute. But this one is like a dual-chambered flute.
Yeah.
So
based on a pre-Columbian flute with like Azteca Maya style, but then he makes them in the Lakota tradition, kind of Plains Indian style in the wood. So check it out. Here we go.
Cool. I'm going to move over to your side. Drop that funky beat,
all right,
P.
Here we go.
Love you, brother. Thank you for that. Thank you, everybody. Peace.
Bye.